2:44 a.m. Andersen Air Force Base, Guam, Western Pacific. The flight line is quiet at this hour. 41 F-35. As on the ramp, some in hardened shelters, some under the open Pacific sky. Ground crews rotate through maintenance cycles under portable lighting rigs. The temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. The humidity makes it feel like 34. A P-8A Poseidon has just landed from a 12-hour maritime patrol. Its crew is walking toward the debrief building. In 11 minutes, they will be inside a hardened structure. That timing will matter. 11,000 kilometers to the west, in the mountain tunnel complexes of Hwangryangtan, Qinghai Province, and in the hardened launch facilities along the Fujian coast, the People's Liberation Army Rocket Force has been at ready alert status for 9 days. The order arrives at 2:44 a.m. Guam time, 1:44 a.m. in Beijing. Not a warning. An execution command. 62 DF-26B intermediate range ballistic missiles leave their launch positions within a 4-minute window. Simultaneously, 41 DF-21D anti-ship ballistic missiles launch from coastal TEL vehicles in Fujian Province, targeted at the Nimitz-class carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, operating 380 kilometers southeast of Guam. And from Leiyang Air Base in Hunan Province, 6 H-6N bombers begin their outbound track, each carrying 2 YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missiles. Their targets the same carrier and her 2 Aegis escorts screening to the northwest, 109 weapons in the opening salvo. All of them pointed at an 11-kilometer stretch of rock in the western Pacific and the naval force operating in its waters. From the SBIR's satellite, the launch plumes register as a field of thermal signatures erupting across a 2,200-kilometer arc of Chinese territory. The processing algorithm classifies the event in 2.8 seconds. Ballistic launch event / multi-site / saturation profile / confidence. 99.1%. The alert reaches Indopacom at Camp H.A. Smith at 2:44:41 a.m. Andersen Air Force Base receives the roaming lance alert at 2:44:53 a.m. 46 seconds after the first DF-26B left its canister. The PLA had wargamed this window for 22 months. 3 conditions had aligned. First, the B-2 Spirit detachment that had been rotating through Andersen for 6 months had returned to Whiteman Air Force Base for scheduled depot maintenance. The rotation gap was 11 days, and this was day 7. Second, USS Abraham Lincoln had detached from her standard carrier strike group formation to conduct a bilateral exercise with the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, placing her 380 kilometers from Guam rather than the standard 180, adding 19 minutes to her F/A-18 response time. Third, satellite reconnaissance had confirmed that the THAAD battery at Andersen was in a partial standby cycle, with one of its 2 fire control radars undergoing scheduled calibration. The PLA assessment. 1 active THAAD radar reduced high-altitude intercept capacity by approximately 40%. The assessment was accurate. The conclusion drawn from it was not. What the PLA operational plan did not account for. THAAD does not operate alone. The Aegis network around Guam, 1 cruiser, 2 destroyers within the defended zone, plus USS Abraham Lincoln's 3 Aegis-capable ships, functions as a single integrated architecture through cooperative engagement capability. The partial THAAD degradation had been noted by Indopacom 11 days earlier. The Aegis ships had been repositioned accordingly. The gap had been filled before the PLA decided to exploit it. The DF-26B is a formidable system. Intermediate range, road mobile, capable of carrying conventional or nuclear payloads, maneuvering warhead in terminal phase. Its designers built it specifically to threaten Guam. The island sits at 3,400 kilometers from the Chinese coast, within the DF-26 maximum range with margin to spare. The PLA called it the Guam Express. The name reflected genuine capability. 62 of them, converging on a single target from multiple approach axes, were designed to overwhelm any point defense by sheer volume. The volume was real. The architecture waiting for it was not in the model. 2:49 a.m. The first SM-3 Block 2. A launches from USS Lake Erie, positioned 210 kilometers north-northeast of Andersen. The Aegis combat system has already allocated intercept assignments across the entire network. USS Lake Erie handles the northern approach corridor. USS Chaffee handles the eastern corridor. USS Milius handles the southern. USS Abraham Lincoln's Aegis system, 380 kilometers away, handles the DF-21D anti-ship track separately, its own threat, its own engagement sequence. The CEC network stitches all 5 ships into a single fire control picture. No track is unassigned. No approach corridor is undefended. In the first 8 minutes, the combined Aegis network fires 847 SM-3 and SM-6 interceptors. Of 62, DF-26B rounds, 54 are intercepted in mid-course. 8 reach the terminal phase and enter PAC-3 engagement range over Andersen. 6 are neutralized by PAC-3 MSE batteries in the final 40 kilometers. 2 are not. The first leaker impacts the eastern hardstand area of Andersen at 3:07:14 a.m. The warhead functions as designed. The crater is 26 meters wide and 4 meters deep. 3 F-35As on the eastern ramp sustain structural damage from overpressure. 1 takes a direct secondary fragment strike to its fuselage, assessed as total structural loss. Runway 06L is undamaged. Runway 06R sustains minor surface cracking from ground shock at a distance of 340 meters from the impact point, assessed as operational with caution restriction. The second leaker impacts a fuel storage berm on the western perimeter at 3:07:22 a.m. The berm absorbs the primary blast. Secondary fragmentation impacts a maintenance hangar. The hangar structure holds. Equipment inside: 2 aircraft tow tractors, 1 fuel bowser. 3 ground crew personnel in the vicinity are evacuated with minor injuries from the concussion. They were moving toward a hardened shelter when the impact occurred. They did not reach it in time. Their injuries are not severe. The shelter was 12 seconds away. This was the PLA's best moment. 2 warheads through a layered defense that had fired 847 interceptors. 2 impacts on a major airbase. 1 F-35A rendered inoperable. A fuel berm neutralized. Runway operational with restriction. By any pre-engagement assessment, a meaningful result. By the PLA operational threshold, the damage level required to suppress Andersen's sortie generation for the 6-hour window needed to begin a Taiwan Strait crossing. It represented less than 8% of the required infrastructure degradation. The threshold was not met. The base was not suppressed. The runway was operational, and the 46 minutes between the roaming Lance alert and the first counter-operation munition leaving its platform had been spent not waiting, but targeting. 2:53 a.m., 9 minutes after the SBIRS alert. Operation Chainbreak is authorized by Indopacom. There are no B-2s at Andersen. That part of the PLA assessment was correct. The B-2S are at Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, 10,400 kilometers away. At Mach 0.95 cruise speed, that is approximately 9 hours of flight time. They are not a factor in the first 60 minutes. What is a factor? 4 B-1B Lancers on rotational alert at Andersen, loaded with JASSM-ER at 24 rounds per aircraft. 96 JASSM-ER on 4 aircraft, in hardened shelters that absorbed the DF-26B impacts without structural compromise. The B-1B is not a stealth aircraft, but at the ranges involved, launching from outside Chinese air defense coverage, 900 kilometers from the nearest target set. Stealth is not required. JASSM-ER is. The first B-1B clears runway 06R at 2:58 a.m., 14 minutes after the alert. The second at 3:01 a.m., third at 3:04 a.m., fourth at 3:07 a.m. The same minute the two DF-26B warheads impact Andersen. The 4th B-1B's crew feels the ground shock through the runway as they rotate. The aircraft climbs normally. Simultaneously, 163 Tomahawk Block 5 cruise missiles receive targeting updates from 3 Arleigh Burke destroyers and USS Lake Erie. First launch at 3:02 a.m. 72 FA-18 Super Hornet and F-35C sorties are cycling off USS Abraham Lincoln's flight deck. Surge operations, 1 aircraft every 51 seconds. The first wave is airborne by 3:19 a.m. At minute 11, 289 aim points have been allocated across 164 separate PLARF installations, H-6 bomber bases, and coastal radar facilities. Each aim point matched to a weapon type based on target hardness, depth, and proximity to civilian infrastructure. The targeting cycle that required Desert Storm 6 weeks was completed in 11 minutes. By 3:09 a.m., 25 minutes after the first DF-26B launched, the United States had authorized $1.7 billion in precision munitions. The JASSM-ER packages alone, 96 rounds at $1.36 million each, represented $130.6 million in ordnance accelerating west over the Pacific simultaneously. 163 Tomahawks at $2.09 million each, $340.7 million more. The invoice was still building. 3:14 a.m. 6 EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft reached their jamming orbits over the Philippine Sea. INDOPACOM's Electronic Warfare Coordination Cell had spent 31 months mapping the PLARF communications relay architecture, the specific frequency bands used for TEL vehicle coordination, launch authorization traffic, and post-strike battle damage assessment. The EA-18Gs suppress 17 of those bands simultaneously. The effect is not total. PLARF frequency hopping protocols cycle every 2.1 seconds across 3 bands. The Growlers adapt, but during the 6.3-second window of each adaptation cycle, partial PLARF traffic flows through. Fragmented coordination. Not zero. Not enough. At 3:17 a.m., the first Harmon AARGMER anti-radiation missiles begin impacting coastal radar facilities in Fujian and Guangdong provinces. 7 radar installations in 6 minutes. Each one offline reduces the PLA's ability to track and target the carrier group. By 3:23 a.m., USS Abraham Lincoln's position is being fed to surviving DF-21D TELs by only 2 functioning OTH radar downlinks, both of them already receiving JASSM-ER inbound. Complication. The PLARF forward command node at Meizhou, Fujian Province, primary relay for DF-21D terminal seeker updates, had been hardened against harm under a civil construction program completed 7 months before the operation. The facility's external antenna array was rendered inoperable at 3:21 a.m. But the array was a decoy. The actual uplink antenna was 340 meters away, underground, connected by fiber. The DF-21D TEL vehicles continued receiving targeting updates for an additional 19 minutes. The kinetic solution was assigned at 3:22 a.m. A JASSM-ER, already airborne over the Taiwan Strait, received a mid-flight retargeting update via data link. Endpoint shifted 23 kilometers to the actual antenna location, identified by signals intelligence intercept at 3:19 a.m. The weapon acknowledged. Arrival, 14 minutes. During those 14 minutes, the antenna continued transmitting. The H-6N bombers and their YJ-21 packages were a separate problem. 6 H-6N aircraft, each carrying 2 YJ-21 hypersonic anti-ship missiles, were tracked by the E-2D Hawkeye from the moment they left Liang Air Base. Their release point for the YJ-21 was 900 kilometers from USS Abraham Lincoln, outside standard fighter intercept range at cruise speed, but not outside the range of USS Abraham Lincoln's own Aegis system, operating in anti-air warfare mode. The H-6N formation was intercepted by FA-18 Super Hornets from the Lincoln's first wave sorties at 3:31 a.m., 780 kilometers from the carrier. 4 of 6 H-6N were engaged at BVR range with AIM-120D. 2 were neutralized before weapons release. 2 released their YJ-21 pairs before being engaged. 4 YJ-21 in flight, hypersonic, approximately 11 minutes from terminal phase. JASSM-6 in dual anti-air and anti-ballistic missile mode engaged all 4 YJ-21 at 34 to 41 kilometers altitude during their terminal dive phase. 3 were intercepted. The 4th executed a terminal maneuver that took it outside the engagement solution geometry of the first JASSM-6. The interceptor passed 340 meters clear. A second JASSM-6, already in the air on a contingency track, resolved the 4th YJ-21 at 22 kilometers altitude. The carrier continued into the wind. Aircraft were launching. The pilot tracking the DF-21D TEL convoy en route 324 northwest of Fuzhou was at 43,000 feet. F-35C, 91 minutes into the sortie. Fuel state adequate for 40 more minutes on station. His EOTS had a clean thermal lock on a 7-vehicle convoy. The characteristic heat signature of an 11-axle TEL with hydraulic systems recently activated. He had 31 seconds before the lead vehicle entered a road tunnel. He transmitted the coordinates on the data link without voice confirmation. The Tomahawk, already inbound to the area, received the update at 3:41:07 a.m. The convoy was 4.1 kilometers from the tunnel entrance. At road speed, that was 6 minutes. The Tomahawk arrived in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. The convoy had covered 3.3 kilometers. It was still on the open road. He watched the thermal signature register on his EOTS display for 1.4 seconds, and then stop. He checked his fuel state, updated his recovery time, and turned south toward the carrier. He said nothing on the radio. By 3:44 a.m., the operation had processed 164 installations across 4 simultaneous weapon streams. The JASSM-ER packages from the B-1B Lancers, the first of which had been airborne for 46 minutes, were beginning to reach their target sets in Fujian province. PLARF launched support depots, fuel handling facilities, the maintenance nodes that TEL vehicles require for sustained operations. Not the TELs themselves. Those were mobile, tracked individually. The fixed infrastructure that supported them. Of 94 DF-21D TEL vehicles assessed active at the time of launch, 67 were neutralized in the first engagement window. 27 survived, inside tunnel complexes, under terrain masking, or on road networks not covered by the initial sensor-to-shooter assignments. They existed. They were tracked. They were not yet resolved. The Meiju antenna, the one that had continued transmitting for 19 minutes, was neutralized at 3:36 a.m. by the rerouted JASSM-ER. The DF-21D TEL vehicles that had been receiving updates through it went silent. Their last received targeting data was 19 minutes old. At USS Abraham Lincoln's current speed and heading, 19-minute-old coordinates placed the carrier 9.3 nautical miles from her actual position. The terminal seekers would search. They would not find. The desperation gambit came at 3:49 a.m. The PLARF duty officer at the Shandong Reserve Command Post had a partial picture. 14 of 19 communication relays were offline. Through a surviving HF radio link, he had fragments of the engagement assessment. The first salvo had not suppressed Andersen. The carrier was still operational. The H-6N wave had not achieved penetration. He had one reserve asset that had not been committed. A battery of DF-17 hypersonic glide vehicles. 6 rounds, held back from the initial salvo, specifically because their launch signature would confirm their existence to U.S. intelligence. That calculation no longer applied. He authorized the launch. 6 DF-17 launches from Shandong province at 3:49 a.m. The DF-17's hypersonic glide vehicle detaches from its booster at 80 kilometers altitude and enters unpowered glide at Mach 7.3, capable of lateral maneuver exceeding 200 kilometers from its nominal trajectory. Its approach geometry is designed to be unsolvable by standard SM-3 intercept algorithms. The THES-AD engagement solution is the correct counter: kinetic intercept at high altitude during the glide phase, before terminal maneuver capability fully develops. THAAD at Andersen, one radar still in calibration, acquired 5 of 6 DF-17 tracks at 61 to 74 kilometers. The 6th was in a lateral maneuver profile that placed it outside THAAD's current radar coverage sector. The USS Chaffee, 180 kilometers to the southeast, had the track on its Aegis system. SM-6 in terminal ballistic missile defense mode, launched at 3:54 a.m. The DF-17 was at Mach 6.8 and descending. The SM-6 kinetic vehicle resolved the track at 38 kilometers altitude, inside the engagement window but at the outer edge of probability. Impact confirmed at 3:54:41 a.m. Of the 5 THAAD-engaged DF-17, 4 intercepted cleanly. 1, the 4th in the sequence, was hit but not fully neutralized. The kinetic interceptor fragmented the glide vehicle's control surfaces without achieving complete structural collapse. The DF-17 continued on a ballistic trajectory, no longer maneuvering, no longer guided. It impacted a hillside 2.4 kilometers north of Andersen's northern perimeter at 3:55:07 a.m. The hillside absorbed the impact. No base infrastructure affected. Seismographs at the Guam seismic network registered a 1.9 magnitude event at 3:55:08 a.m. 6 DF-17 launched, 6 resolved. The reserve gambit had not changed the outcome. By 4:01 a.m., the PLARF command network had lost 17 of 23 routing nodes. Transmissions from surviving command posts were reaching fewer than 30% of their intended recipients. Launch vehicles that received orders could not confirm receipt. Launch vehicles that had questions received no answers. The network was not gone. It was fragmented, degraded below the threshold of coordinated operation. At 4:09 a.m., the last coordinated PLARF command transmission was intercepted. A launch authorization for 4 TEL vehicles in Fujian province, whose positions had already been assigned to inbound Tomahawks. The authorization was received by one of the 4 vehicles. The vehicle's crew could not raise the other 3 for formation confirmation. They did not launch unilaterally. Protocol required multi-vehicle coordination for a theater ballistic missile strike. The protocol held. The vehicle did not fire. After 4:09 a.m., isolated signals. Individual units attempting to reach a network that no longer functioned as a unified architecture. 11 uncoordinated launches between 4:09 and 4:22 a.m. Individual TEL crews acting without coordination, without updated targeting data, without confirmation of what had already been neutralized. 9 of 11 intercepted. 2 impacted the Philippine Sea in unpopulated water. At 4:22 a.m., the last PLARF missile entered the water. The force had not surrendered. It had simply stopped functioning as a coordinated system. The silence was not a decision. It was the absence of a network capable of making one. In the Indo-Pacific Command, CAOC at Camp HM, Smith, the officer responsible for the chain break target list, watched the strike assessment database update in real time. Green, confirmed, neutralized. Yellow, degraded, reassessment required. Red, inaccessible, tunnel complexes, terrain masking, weather obscuration. 347 aim points. At 4:31 a.m., 271 were green, 53 were yellow, 23 were red. She opened the second wave recommendation file. The red indicators were her next problem. The 23 surviving positions were the hardest targets on the list. The ones that had been hardest since the list was first compiled 18 months ago. She had known they would survive the first wave. The first wave had never been designed to neutralize them. It had been designed to neutralize everything else, leaving those 23 as isolated positions without the network they required to function. Isolated. Tracked. No longer part of a coordinated force. She saved the database at 4:31 a.m. and reached for her headset. The second wave assessment needed to be on the Indopacom commander's desk by 7 o'clock. From the JASSM-ER satellite's first thermal registration at 2:44 a.m. to the last uncoordinated PLARF missile impacting the Philippine Sea at 4:22 a.m. 1 hour, 38 minutes. PLA weapons launched in the initial salvo. 100.9. DF-26B intercepted by SM-3 and SM-6. 54 in mid-course. DF-26B intercepted by PAC-3. 6 in terminal phase. DF-26B impacts on Andersen, 2. DF-21, D anti-ship rounds launched, 41. Intercepted, 39. Reached terminal seeker phase without valid targeting data, 2. Impact on defended surface, 0. YJ-21, hypersonic anti-ship missiles launched, 12. Intercepted, 12. DF-17 reserve salvo launched, 6. Intercepted, 6. Total first salvo interception rate, 94.5%. Uncoordinated follow-on launches, 11. Intercepted, 9. Water impact unpopulated, 2. PLARF installations neutralized in first engagement window, 271 of 347 aim points. DF-21, DTEL vehicles, 67 of 94 assessed no longer operational. PLARF command and relay network, below coordinated operational threshold as of 4:09 a.m. H-6N bomber airframes at Layang, 2 of 6 neutralized during intercept. 4 returned to base with no surviving YJ-21 payload. U.S. and NATO assets. Andersen Air Force Base, 1 F-35A total structural loss, 2 F-35As repairable within 96 hours, runway 06R operational with restriction, runway 06L undamaged throughout. 3 personnel with minor injuries from perimeter impact concussion. USS Abraham Lincoln and Strike Group, combat effective throughout. 0 Aegis ships with structural damage. 1 FA-18 Super Hornet sustained minor debris damage on return recovery. Assessed repairable within 48 hours. Cost of U.S. munitions expended in Operation Chainbreak, $2.8 billion. Estimated replacement value of PLARF military assets neutralized, $43 billion across tail vehicles, fixed infrastructure, command facilities, and bomber airframes. Exchange ratio, 1 to 15.4. The PLARF had spent 19 years and $43 billion building the capability that left Hwangryangtan and Fujian province at 2:44 a.m. The operational plan had been refined across 61 wargame iterations. Every iteration had been solved. None of them had modeled the specific combination of CEC integration, pre-positioned EA-18G assets, and the JASSM-ER packages on 4B-1B Lancers that were airborne within 14 minutes of the alert. The window the PLA had identified was real. The THAAD calibration gap existed. The B-2 rotation gap existed. The carrier's extended position was real. The intelligence was accurate. The operational plan was coherent. The wargame results supported the decision. What the wargame had not included, the system designed to operate during exactly that window. Not to fill the gaps, but to make the gaps irrelevant. The gaps were known. The response to them had been pre-planned, pre-authorized, and pre-positioned. The window existed in the PLA's model. In the operational environment, it had never been open. 1 hour and 38 minutes. That was the distance between the PLA's most sophisticated conventional strike operation and the point at which its force fell below coordinated operational threshold. In that window, 19 years of investment was reduced to a damage assessment database. The database was classified. The elapsed time was not. 1 hour and 38 minutes. It would be studied. It would not be forgotten. The machine had been running before the first launch plume appeared on the SBIRS display. It did not start when the alert arrived. It was already at speed. The targeting cycle, the intercept assignments, the strike packages on the B-1Bs, the Growler orbits. All of it was in motion before the first DF-26B reached altitude. The PLA had planned a strike. What it encountered was a parallel process that had started months earlier and never stopped. Andersen was still operational. The carrier was still into the wind. The runway restriction would be lifted in 72 hours. The F-35A would be written off the inventory. The 3 injured personnel would return to duty within a week. The 23 red indicators on the CAOC database would be addressed at 7 o'clock. The machine was not finished. It had simply paused between waves.